great, please. So welcome everyone. Today's Promo Republic CMO Peer Talk is how to build a local marketing program to drive leads in the home service franchise industry. We've got some great brands and leaders on. First, I am Madeline Park. I am the CMO of our personal threshold brands in Greater Philadelphia. We have 3 threshold brands and then a new closet brand. So we've got 4 franchise brands. And my husband is currently out with our Men in Kilts franchise, which Rachel will talk about a little later. And then also the director of marketing at NetSertive. So I also used to work for Threshold Brands. So I am like all about home services and franchising. And of course, to promote the CMO Peer Talks on LinkedIn, if you want to scan that QR code, this is where basically every franchise leader can go and just talk shop and talk about problems, listen to webinars, listen to podcasts. It's really great. For some reason, they decided to use my headshot, but I'm not mad about that because that's my favorite photo. So, but definitely go check that out. Always has some great content. First, we've got Rachel Southard, president of Men in Kilts franchise. Rachel, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. So hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Southard. I'm currently the brand president for Men in Kilts. I've been with Threshold Brands Men in Kilts for just over a year. Prior to my time at Men in Kilts, I ran operations for the Anytime Fitness franchise. I was there for just under 10 years. My whole life has been franchising. My first job in high school was working for a franchisee in a fitness center. So it's all I know. I love franchising. So super excited to be here with you guys today and chat with some of my colleagues.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. And if you're wondering, yes, everyone, including the females, wear kilts. And no, you cannot tumble dry them. They're just all over the house hanging, drying. Then we have Michael Wagner, president at Pool Scouts. Michael, tell us a little about yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy to be here at Michael Wagner. Pool Scouts has been around since 2016. Officially, I came on board with Buzz Franchise Brands in 2015 to start the brand. We have 115 locations, 50 franchisees across 18 different states so far. Prior to Buzz Franchise Brands, I did another entrepreneurial type thing, starting up subsidiaries of a corporate entity that was based here in Virginia Beach, but started the international offices. So ultimately in 9 different countries, albeit wholly owned subsidiaries. And then I had a stint as a true entrepreneur and had a business that was on Shark Tank and got an investment from Mark Cuban. So just lots of kind of entrepreneurial things. Really happy to be in franchising now for the past 7 years, and I love what I do, and really I'm honored to be on this panel. Thanks.
Well, that's super cool that you were on Shark Tank. I always get like the emails and then I realize like, oh, I'm so cool. They want me on Shark Tank. And then I'm like, oh, just kidding. They want my advertising money, but you were the real deal. So that is awesome. And then of course we have Angelique McMillan. Did I say that right? And she is the new VP of marketing at Handyman Connection, taking over for Marcy, who I know a lot of you know, but she's been with the brand forever. So Angelique, congrats again, and tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I am the Vice President of Marketing, leading brand and marketing for Handyman Connection. I've been with Handyman Connection a little over 5 years now. I started as a regional marketing manager, working with our franchisees on building and implementing effective local marketing campaigns. And now I am leading the brand a little over 5 years later. So really excited to be here. Prior to working at Handyman Connection, I actually worked on the agency side, delivering digital and print marketing campaigns for franchise brands in the home service sector, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, and even the handyman services. So excited to share my over 15 years experience with all of you, and thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So we'll get right into it. Our first part is we'll just, hop on in, is what are some of the major consumer behavior trends that marketing leaders should pay attention to? I think a lot of the times we talk about our target market, our personas, but I think there's less of a conversation around how personas can change. And the easiest thing I can say is like teenagers now, they do not use Facebook. they do not use it. They like TikTok. I mean, even Snapchat is kind of going off the map. So that's what we mean in terms of consumer behavior trends. So Angelique, we'll start with you, and just what are your thoughts on this, and how do you make sure that your personas and your targeting is always staying up to date?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we built out our customer personas probably most recently in the last 3 years, and they really haven't changed that much, but really what has changed how we reach those personas, the marketing tactics that they're engaging in and the activities that they're using online and in local print marketing to generate, inquiries. So for us, the big trend for us that we're paying attention to is experience matters now more than ever. Customers want a personalized customer experience, and they want it to be memorable. And if you're going to maintain your customer base, it's got to be memorable. So that's something that we really focus on heavily here at Handyman Connection, is building out our brand experience and making sure that we're delivering the best possible brand experience to our customers. I think the other trend that really stuck out for us is with the recent pandemic, home has really become the hub. More and more individuals are working from home. And so they're spending more time in their home. I think the latest study I saw, that 90% of individuals said that they spend more time indoors and more time at home than they ever have. So for us, it's really tailoring marketing campaigns that reach those individuals in their home. So those are the trends that we're probably paying attention to the most, is really focusing on our customer experience, how we deliver that correctly to each of our different personas, and making sure that we're reaching them in the best way possible and in the mediums and modes that make the most sense for us to capture their attention.
That's awesome. And then I'm going to follow that up with Rachel, because we're kind of similar in that, home exterior services, interior services. So what is it like, especially with a brand that has such a big personality, to make sure that you're not just, or we're not just like flouting around in our kilts and going to anyone and everywhere? How do you make sure that ad spend is not wasted?
Yeah, kind of piggybacking on what Angelique said about experience. So Men in Kilts, one of the big initiatives we just are kind of on the tail end of is a brand refresh. And part of that kind of rebranding that we did this year was really taking a look at who our personas were. We looked at our existing customers and our purchase intenders, and we didn't have personas, so we needed to create them. So we did a lot of customer research. And what we found was that people are willing to spend more for a better experience. And we really wanted to lean into our distinctiveness, which is our kilt, as our differentiator. And it's just this really funny thing, Maddie. I think it's like, this may sound crazy, but when you see a pregnant woman, like pregnant women are like so approachable. Like you just want to go touch their belly. You want to talk to them. Like they make you smile. That's what they do to me. And that's kind of what the kilt does. Like you see a man in a kilt or anyone in a kilt and you just smile. And so it's like this immediate experience without us really having to do anything, but just be in the kilt. So we really had to tighten that up and say, okay, how do we leverage that to really create some wow moments for our customers? Like they're already expecting kind of a show. Like they want to be home when we get there. Like they want to know when we're coming so they can be home to see the Men in Kilts doing the work. So we've really been reinforcing to our franchisees, kind of creating these wow moments with customers. How do we do these little things that make a big difference? Like, carrying up the garbage can if it's down at the street, or putting the newspaper, taking it from the yard and putting it on their front door, or look, I noticed your light bulb was out. Can I change that for you? Like just these little bitty things that the customer doesn't expect, but it gives them this moment that they're like, oh, wow, that was really neat. So we call them wow moments, because we know that they're going to tell their friends. They're going to tell their friends about that experience. They're going to take pictures. We have such a unique opportunity to leverage social media. So we just have to create those moments and let our customers do the work for us. So that's been really a successful tactic for our franchisees.
Jesse, my husband, actually was like, so one of the moms just asked me to come to her kid's birthday party, and I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. And I was like, well, you can sell to the parents. He's like, I know, but this birthday party's for 6-year-olds. So, so totally agree with that. And then moving on, Michael, Pool Scouts is so interesting because it's a slightly different niche, where a lot of times with like house and home, especially with Maid Pro, which we have as well, is like oh, I can do it. If the budget really comes down, I'll clean the windows. It's kind of honeydew. When it comes to pools, like people don't mess around with chemicals. They're like, I don't know what's happening. Also, I don't know what that is down there. I'm not cleaning it. So you have this unique thing where you have a service that most people need, but what does that kind of look like on a long term? Because I imagine that people's use of their pools changes over time, especially if they have young kids to grown kids. And then, how you expand in the neighborhoods, because I'm sure there's also a lot of clients that just don't have pools. So, how do you make sure your messaging is always hitting so that you can keep expanding?
Well, good, thanks. A good question. One of the advantages of our business is it's so targeted. We target based on even the way we offer franchise territories based on single family homes with in-ground pools with incomes above a certain threshold. And then we really target market to those folks only that have pools. And that's both through things like direct mail and digital and things where we're really targeted. And then the messaging is important. Like everyone, we really figured out who our customer is, even on top of the criteria we have for our territories. And so we play to that audience of folks that don't want to do it themselves. And so while their behavior might change as far as how frequently they use their pool, that audience doesn't want to do it themselves. They don't want to spend their weekend, cleaning, vacuuming their pool. They want to just have it done and have it be clean whenever they want to use it. I think it's just such a focused effort with a focused group of people, and then knowing what we do and focus on the recurring side of business. Most of our customers were in their backyard every week cleaning their pools, so it's a lot of recurring revenue, which bodes well for the referral side of things that were mentioned earlier from the other companies too. I think there's one behavior that I think is interesting that I've seen, and that is while we're getting now more customers through digital marketing than any other source that we've had. Those customers don't want to talk many times on the phone. They see some sort of promotion. They want to be able to respond immediately without picking up the phone and talking to somebody. And they want to just order almost like we're on Uber Eats or something like that, the service. Yeah. And interestingly enough, in our business, most of the time our technicians don't interact with the customer. They just go in the backyard, they do the job, and they leave. So we're not having that same level of interaction with the customer that we've had, but they know what they want when they want it.
Awesome. And I think that makes a lot of sense too, in terms of, brands starting to decide, do we do texting? Do we integrate chat or online scheduling? Because you're right, the trend is going in that direction. I literally just looked at a call. It was my mother and I was still like, no. And I texted, I was like, what? Like this talking is too much. I will text you. So I think that's
it does brings up another trend, Maddie, that to your point, I think millennials are the fastest growing home buying segment, and that's how they want to communicate. So even though they may not be our customers quite yet, or they don't make up the large majority of our customer base, we have to keep an eye on them because they are our future customer. And they don't want to pick up the phone and dial. Those days are over. And it's immediate, to your point. If I see an ad, I want a solution within 5 seconds on text. I don't want to wait and do an email thing, chat or automatic book online booking. If you don't have it or you're not working on it, you're behind.
I agree. And especially with Google's new whatever they're doing these days, where you can take a picture of someone's bag and it's here's where you can buy it. People don't know how to research anymore. They don't even know what to do. They're just Google, tell me. So, I think that's a great point to bring up. And the second part is I'm going to twist it a little bit in terms of how trends affect your local marketing programs, because it makes sense that your targeting is going to stay the same. Especially if you're starting to refresh those personas and how those personas are interacting, such as, strictly online. My first question is, we brought up Facebook, we brought up, yard signs, but we also brought up direct mail, which I'm sure some brands on here are excuse me, what? Does direct mail still work for you? And how are you integrating that into a fully digital world? Because in our franchise world, direct mail crushes still. But if you tell that to, a Clean Eats brand or a juicery brand, they would be like, you're lying. So tell us, a little bit more about that, because I say that a lot and people they don't believe me. Anyone, go ahead. Anyone.
Yeah, Maddie, I actually had that on my list of like how this is impacted with home being the new hub for everything. We've actually seen a huge increase in our ROI from our traditional forms of advertising. So our print advertising, our texting, our phone calling, outbound calling platforms. So for us, I think it's been really crucial. I mean, obviously as an in-home service brand, we're going to be in people's homes. So why not reach them in their home? And with more Americans spending more time in their home, it's been crucial to our success. And really not only the brand awareness piece, but the re-implementation of QR codes. I mean, we kind of thought those were dead. Whoever would have thought they'd be back as fierce as they are to really make
a century.
Yeah, absolutely. To be able to re-engage with our customers and to be able to track, exactly what that print piece is doing based on that QR code scan that was specific to that piece. So I think more than ever, the traditional forms of advertising outside of the phone call, and to go along with what Rachel said of that instant gratification, you can scan the QR code, you can book your appointment, you can supply us pictures. We can actually do everything virtually now that we had to do in home before, because the pandemic kind of forced us into, having to be creative in how we engage and interact with our customers. So for us, the traditional print advertising has made a huge comeback. It's been hard to sell franchisees on it, but the proof is in the numbers and the data. So, there's so many different ways to track it now that I think it's definitely here to stay.
And you brought up such a good point about, I think the biggest common pain point that every agency says they can solve, and I have yet to see, is tying the new customer acquisition back to marketing dollars. Cause everybody's all over the place. So with the direct mail, especially to your point with QR codes, it's much easier to do that tie back, especially when you're making unique pieces. Rachel, what are your thoughts on this? And also the fact that co-op mailers still work very well. Like, I'm in marketing and I'm like, Jesse, don't you dare put our services in the Valpak. He does it anyways, and then it works. And it's like, and it blows my mind that Valpak still works, but it does. So what are your thoughts around, all of that?
Yeah, I think it's all about like, you have to have a holistic approach to it. You have to approach it kind of with that omni-channel look. You can't just do one thing. You can't go all in on digital or all in on print. You have to diversify your marketing spend and look at the data and see what's working and adjust. But to your point, you can't always, it's like, it's really hard to measure awareness. Like you can't, did that yard sign really work? You may not be able to tie it back, but I guarantee you, if you're able to, if they see you multiple times and then they get that direct mail piece, that might be the moment that you caught them at the right time where they're ready to scan the QR code or whatever it is. We're also about to pilot with a vendor called, I think it's called SynGym. I might be saying this wrong. My marketing manager is like really all over this and excited about it. Where they will,
I know you're on this call, so
I know Jen is in here. She could drop it in the chat. Yeah, she's really excited, but it's kind of retargeting, but again, coming out of the digital space. And okay, great. They clicked on our Facebook ad and now we know who they are and we can send them a direct mail piece. So again, like you've got to be playing and diversifying that spend in all channels.
For sure. And that is dangerous, because now I'm going to start getting ads for a whole mess of things that I can't afford. And I'm going to end up buying them, and it's just going to be a problem.
I know. I love it. People think it's creepy, but I'm like, you made my life easier. Thank you. Like, oh yeah, I forgot I wanted that.
Gym. Yeah, you're right. It's send Jim.
There you go.
I'm sending a Jim. All right, Michael, round us up, and then also talk to me about seasonality, because I'm sure in some of your locations, you guys are good year round, but up in Pennsylvania, I'm not getting in a pool in January. So how do you deal with the different trends, the different outlets, and also, hey, for some of your locations, you only got 3 months to pre-market?
Yeah, no, great. I will say a plug on direct mail. Our direct mail response rates this year are the best that they have ever been. And I think, you brought up the QR code and other ways to measure. We have unique phone numbers and all the things that everybody else has, but they have been better than they've ever been, which is great. It is also, for us, especially, our best brand awareness tool, because it's going specifically to the households that we're targeting in the first place. I agree with what we call a three-legged stool too, which is you've got to do your digital, you got to do your direct mail, and you got to do your community-oriented stuff. And some people are great at that, and some people are not great at that. The seasonality for us really, I always call it the bookends of business, and it's really spectacular customer acquisition opportunities as well as revenue generators for openings and closings in those seasonal markets. We're in 18 different states. So we target our marketing based on those, even with all different forms of marketing that we do. And then we just tout the recurring nature of, even if we close somebody's pool, which we'll do up until December, believe it or not. And then, we'll do it in some places earlier than others. But then we've already started the booking of the opening in March or April or May, whenever it's going to be. So we really have this kind of cycle of how we manage our customer relationships. But they do, our direct mail and other marketing works better in the seasonal markets, and you have these ups and downs clearly than it does in the year-round markets in many cases. So it's really a unique opportunity. People appreciate the seasonality from a franchisee perspective. They often do, but it's an opportunity really that we see, and our customer value across the system doesn't suffer in the seasonal markets compared to the year-round markets either.
That's great. And I think, Rachel can relate to this because Men in Kilts for the most part is seasonal, a long season, but pretty seasonal. And then we also have a patio patrol, which is a mosquito control. And I know Mosquito Shield or Mosquito Joe, there's a mosquito company on here, can relate to this as well. Sorry, I know you're pissed that I just like mess up your brain. Pregnancy brain, just ignore it. But I think your point of rolling over customers at the end of the season instead of waiting until the next season to be like, hey, I'm just showing up, or all of a sudden our sales team and tech team is inundated with 300 recurring clients plus the new ones. If you try to even out that rollover, and it's going to help your retention, I think that's really great. I could talk about this all day, but moving on to part two. So what are your go-to local lead generation tactics and why? And I'm going to say more local because we just talked about how you kind of have to have this holistic approach, and I want to know about what you're coaching your franchisees to do. And Rachel, we'll start with you because you have the easiest brand to do that with, because usually your franchisees have a big personality, right? So what are your thoughts on terms of yard signs, guerrilla marketing, the trade shows? Are those still working in home services? Do people go and sign up for services at those things? What are you coaching your franchisees on?
Okay, so our two biggest things that we drive home the hardest are our van, which we call parketing. It's very bright and eye-catchy, and our franchisees park their van around different locations when they're not during the day, obviously, but at night, overnight, weekends, moving that van around. We have a really funny story where one of our franchisees said someone came up to him and was like, oh my gosh, I see your vans all over town. And he just laughed because he has one. Like he's the only franchisee and he has one. But moving it around has been a really great strategy for building brand awareness. The other thing that's fun and easy for us to do is you have to do your chores in your kilt. And what we mean by that is you wear that kilt everywhere. Kind of going back to consumer trends, people really want to shop local and they want to support local businesses. So how do you become like that guy in your town that's known as, oh, that's the guy in the kilt? You wear your kilt to the grocery store, you pick up your kids from school in the kilt, you go to dinner at night in the kilt, you wear that kilt out, you wear it everywhere. And you just can't compete with that because it goes back to people see you in the kilt and they're like, they just want to talk to you. You're so approachable. So those are kind of the two easiest things that our franchisees can leverage to generate leads and kind of become known in their local markets.
That's great. And Jesse always forgets the term parketing and he says vanvertising. So if you needed another term, that
Yeah,
one.
I like that.
And then I will say, yeah, I'm like, and also we get people, because he's discovered if you park in strip malls or the strip grocery stores, no one really knows who owns the parking lot, so you don't get towed. And then people were like, do you sleep there? I was like, okay, hold on. We're not doing that poorly. But for the other brands on here that don't wear kilts, I know Michael is like, oh, I can't wait to get a Pool Scouts kilt. But for those who don't wear kilts, put your kids, your siblings, your neighbors, put them in branded gear, because that's the easiest way. A lot of people think of it as, I don't want to be giving out free gear. T-shirts are expensive. My dad is 6'8" and my brother is 6'9", and they're the biggest billboards we can have. So that's how I always say, kids, you're going to school with a Made Pro backpack. You're going to school in a Men in Kilts. Put everyone in it because they'll wear it and they'll see it. So that's another way to do your chores, but always be
in your
In-
brand. And don't cheap out on your shirts. Like, don't buy cheap $5 thick cotton t-shirt. Like, it has to be a shirt they actually want to wear. And
Yes.
it is a bigger investment, but what's the point of, they're not going to wear the other shirt anyway. So you're just throwing that money away. You might as well spend a little more and get a good quality shirt.
Exactly.
And it's a representation of your brand. I mean, do you want to
Yes.
have a nice colored polo or do you want to have a big heavy cotton t-shirt on? So
Exactly.
Exactly. So Michael, talk to me. Do you have people, do they still door knock? Are they just jumping in pools and being like, hey, I'm in it already, I should quit it? You know, what do you guys coach on in terms of that?
You know, some things were brought up that are traditional, you know, a yard sign. One of the things, like I said, with it's such a targeted audience of people that we go after, and then tools like Google Earth and other things are actually, our franchisees know when they're going out to you know, to clean a pool, they know if the houses next door have pools, or they know the you know, the number of pools in a neighborhood and those kinds of things. So it's really that much more targeted. They might put if they know that the next door, they might put something in the mailbox. They don't knock on the door. There's a ton of opportunities for referrals, and especially for new franchisees is something we're always coaching. It's like, in the beginning of your business, you're going to have time, but you don't have any money. And then when you get later on in your business, you might not have time and you might have money. So if you think about that community-oriented push, it was brought up earlier by Rachel, is like being out into the community as the Pool Scouts owner of the business and being engaged and involved. In our case too, the whole realtor side of things and the whole real estate side of things is just a win. The pool never needs to be the reason that a deal doesn't close, but that means you got to have tight relationships with the realtor community. Get out there to literally bring bagels and coffee to a sales meeting on a weekly basis. It costs nothing but time, really. So those are some opportunities we have there, I think. And then just the social media, just the pushing of local content. People love to buy from, you know, local people that are the owners as well. And we always preach, like, introduce yourself as the owner of the business, because everybody wants to do business with the decision maker who's the owner of the business. Some people have that natural tendency to want to push themselves out in the community and be the business owner, and others don't. They're fearful of it. And we try and support them with, you know, media or content, but it's really just a matter of, you know, getting out of your comfort zone and being in front of the community, especially in the very beginning of the business when nobody knows who you are.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that point of, you know, using your social media, because nobody wants to door knock, but your Facebook and your digital presence is basically your online door knocking. So, and bringing to point of posting local content, you don't always have to post an ad, but you can share an event that's going on in your town, and or you can enter that event and be like, oh, you know, we're going to be there handing out XYZ. So, you know, stuff like that, really getting into it. And because I think people think of guerrilla marketing as, I have to go set out 100 yard signs, or I need to buy this big expensive booth, when really, you know, put your friend in there, say you'll pay him with a beer, and then just start walking around handing out business cards and coupons. So, you know, that is a way to do that. I have a funny story I want to share, and it involves door knocking. And this cute little white blonde girl comes to my door, and I'm like, what? Like, oh God, I answered the door. And she's like, hi, we are the local mosquito service. We do all of your neighbors. And I'm like, this bitch. I was like, I do all of the neighbors. I own one of the companies, but she did not give up. And she was like, oh, well, you know, we can handle like these spider webs like above my doorway. And I'm like, I was like, she wouldn't give up. And eventually when I was like, okay, I have to go, she's like, it's really hot out here. Can I have a water? And so of course I'm going to be like, yes, I will get you I get her a water. And by the time I get her a water, I'm like, you know what, you're right. These spiders are kind of, wait a minute, hold on. So there is also an essence into making sure that your salespeople are ready to sell, because I've had people who, oh, you've got an extra day and it's a tech, go hang some door, you know, knockers, go to this event. And if it's not the right person, you know, they're either not going to have results and you're paying for their time, you're going to turn off a tech who just really hates sales. So, you know, making sure they're that right person. And props to that girl, because I was like, I'm going to fight you and you are still asking me for water. So there's people out there who like to sell, believe it or not. So Angelique, I know we're running close on time, but wrap us all up. What
Yeah.
about you guys? There's so many houses. Everyone needs help. How do you
Yeah.
coach?
So you talk about the guerrilla marketing. Michael and Rachel both hit on it. The community marketing aspect is so huge for us. So we still do yard signs, door hangers, magnets. We've changed our messaging on our door hangers to be less about all about us and more about them. So a messaging of, hey, we're working on your neighbor's home. If you notice any debris in your yard, please let us know and we'll happily come remove it. Or if you need us to move our van, oh, also, here's the things we do and why you should work with us. But taking an approach of being more mindful of their time and being more of like a friendly community like partner to individuals and homemakers. So for us, we still do traditional trade shows and all of that stuff. And we don't just use it for new customer acquisition. We use it to build our referral partner network. So we talked about seasonality. So when lead generation tends to slow down for us and for some of the others that are more seasonal like Michael, it's really important that we have other ways to generate those leads. So we leverage our home shows with not only working the show for new customer acquisition, but working it for referral partners, going around and introducing themselves to all of the other business owners there and seeing if they can make some relationship and connections and partnerships to help drive additional lead opportunities. So whether that's working with a local painter and being able to provide a drywall service to them before they go in and paint a home, or same with solar companies. And there's other companies that we can partner with that really helps our owners build a sense of community and build a sense of partnership within other businesses within the community. So the traditional forms are still there for us. We still leverage our lead aggregators for volume during the times that are slow. So, all the traditional ones that you think of, Craft Jack, Porch, Thumbtack, all of those are still big in our marketing mix, but we tend to try to rely a little less heavily on them and more organic lead generation. So really striving to build that foundation from an organic and visibility perspective so that we're really being front and center in all places where customers are looking for business. So all great stuff you guys shared.
Your foundation is good. Yeah, you've got your holistic marketing going out, to quote Rachel, and then also, the valid point of partnering with other local companies, which I know can be hard. Just like, Michael was like, oh, well, you can partner with realtors. Those tend to be people that are like looking for help, but it also can be very difficult to get into. For instance, Men in Kilts says gutter cleaning. We don't fix gutters and we don't install them. So while we're calling gutter installation services to create a partnership, we've discovered people are like, get out of here. Like, who are you calling to take my business? So it does take a clear strategy and clear defined communication to create those. But once you get them, they're great because, you're referring back and forth. So definitely talk to, your franchisees, and if there's franchisees on here, or your franchisor, about how to best do that. Because I think you're right, Angelique, one company can't do it all and they rely on, those local referrals. So we do have a question from Matt Zor, unless you are a Zor, Matt Kelton, who's a Zor. I don't know. Sorry. How do you deal with franchisees who refuse to meet local marketing spend requirements? We burn them at the stake. I don't know about you guys. No, I'm just kidding. So, yeah, Michael, I'll let you take this one to start.
Well, we took out the local marketing spend specifically out of our FDD. We had it in the very beginning. We took it out because we were spending a ton of time tracking, getting receipts from franchisees. What we've done to kind of put our money where our mouth is, though, is we've offered up a portion of our brand fund based on the sales of the franchisee that will go back into a marketing credit that will allow them to use. So we've kind of said, we'll put some money into this, and then they can capture some opportunities that we're helping fund. Then it's just a matter of coaching on a regular basis to demonstrate the ROI that they see. Fortunately, we're such a metric, data-driven company that we can show all the data associated with the types of customer sources across our franchise system. And we make just huge examples of people that do it really well, feature them on our monthly calls to, have them share their story so that people will get out there and do it. I think I just want to bring up one thing on the referral network, which is just a great, unique idea. One of our franchisees in Southern Florida partnered with a roofing company, and almost every house in this part of Florida, Lehigh Acres, has a pool. So when new roofs go on, a pool cleaning is passed on as part of the roofer's service, and he's been able to get tons of new recurring customers out of that. So out of the box thinking as far as a referral partner, but one that worked pretty well.
Yeah.
So just more of those kinds of creative ideas work.
That's great. And then Rachel and Angelique, do you have anything to add about franchisees that don't listen to you? And don't suggest me, because if it's him, then text me and I'll kill him.
No, I think it's reinforcing that coaching again. And I mean, it's simple math that you can work backwards. Like, what revenue do you want to make? And let's work backwards to what you need to spend to get that. And if you're not, producing that revenue, it usually comes down to the marketing spend. So we don't really do any hard like compliance on not spending, because I think the pain of them not hitting their revenue goals is usually enough.
So for us, we didn't take it out, Michael, but we made some adjustments to RPD in terms of what our local marketing spend requirements were. And it is tiered based on the size of the business and the growth that you're experiencing as a business. So where before it was like a set flat percentage, now it's kind of tiered based on where you are in your sales and in the life cycle of your business. So in terms of, executing and ensuring our franchisees are spending, we have really solid partnerships and work really hard. I have a senior marketing manager, Aja Gregory, that works with our franchisees and tracks that local marketing spend through our partners. So we're not having to collect receipts. We're really trying to get as much engagement with our vendor partners and our franchisees, so we have that transparency. And I mean, like Rachel said, it's easy to identify the non-spenders typically, because historically the lack of sales growth falls in line with that lack of spending on marketing. So, for us, it's still really driven home by the coaches and our marketing coach specifically that works with them to show them the value. And then having good data so that you can report back, like Michael said, making a good example of your success stories and those that are, driving leading marketing activity.
That's great. And I think it also just really brings in the point, which I know probably doesn't help those who are dealing with franchisees already in the system, but making sure that when you bring on those franchisees, you're bringing on the right ones. You're not, red flag that this person's not going to follow the instructions, obviously some slip through the cracks, but, and that's where all of your tactics come in. But, from the start, making sure that these people are really going to be partners with you, so that you don't have to spend the bulk of your time trying to coach people who don't want to be coached. So that brings us to time, but I am going to go through a little bit about Promo Republic, and let anyone drop in any more questions they may have. So Promo Republic has exploded on the franchise scene. I didn't know who they were for so long. And then finally they bugged me enough on LinkedIn that I was like, okay, I'll listen to you. And I was like, oh, you guys are pretty cool. So I encourage you to look them up. Really great for brand reputation. They're constantly expanding their services, and just genuinely good people. And, if anything, joining that, this CMO Peer Talks group, because you'll see them at conferences, and just a great way to meet people, hear some of their hear some of their clients. I just forget words nowadays, and it's really annoying. And Jennifer, I know from Men in Kilts, is already going to have a call with them, which is super exciting. And bringing back to Angelique, here are our unique QR codes. So definitely connect with us. I'm super passionate about franchise leaders, especially in marketing and ops, coming together, because when I was in your shoes, I felt very siloed and never felt like I could talk to another brand. So being able to bring these communities together is super important, and also super valuable, because I think, you have to remember that we go from local market all the way to international market in the span of 10 minutes in a meeting. So usually when you have marketing or, brand leadership questions, going the franchising route, people can help you. And then we have one more question. From the corporate team, what kinds of tools do you offer your local franchisees with their local marketing, such as video assets, toolkits, creative? Rachel, I'll let you start because I love Brand Folder. I think it's super great. And I'll let you kind of expand on that.
Yeah, we have a Brand Folder where our franchisees can log in and get access to tons of marketing collateral. It's where they can download images, logos, get our colors and fonts, like to make sure we're always staying on brand. We are in the process of, like I said, coming into Men in Kilts in the last year, a lot of foundational work being laid to put new vendors in place to make a lot of this easier for our franchisees to manage. We just recently partnered with Scorpion. We haven't even launched yet, but we have a lot of really neat tools and capabilities coming soon for our franchisees, like social media management out of their platform. And then, of course, our field service software as well is another tool that they have to manage their business.
And I would say too, one, it's great to have that kind of intranet, the brand folder. I think the most important thing is user ability. You don't want to give them, oh, here, just go do it in Photoshop, because half of these people don't know what their Facebook login is, myself included. But I also say, don't fight a wave. A lot of people want to fight like Canva, but it's a great tool. So they also have, areas for you to, kind of brand template stuff. So Angelique, Michael, do you guys want to add anything there?
Yeah, I mean, we have something similar. We have a handyman connection toolbox. It was interesting, how you said you provide all these resources to them, because we have been doing the same thing. And I was recently on a marketing roundtable hosted by AC Inc. And one of the things that came up was, if you want your franchisees to stay on brand, why are you giving them all the tools to go outside of your network and create these assets on their own? Why not give them the pre-created assets? Not everybody has the time and energy to do that. We're a marketing team of 2. We sure as heck don't. But we try to put as much in there as we can that's pre-done creative that they can leverage, so they're not going rogue and going out and creating their own, possibly using the wrong fonts, the wrong colors. So I kind of rethought like the sharing of our brand guidelines and everything with our franchisees. Like, do I really want to be giving them all of that control, or do we want to kind of keep some of that in-house? So it's kind of like a fine line struggle that we work with right now. So I'm looking at changing that up, but we do have something very similar to what you offer.
I tell people, if they're going through this huge brand refresh or a brand guidelines and it's 80 pages, I go, guys, just tell them what the color is, tell them what a square looks like. That's all they need, because they're going to break the rules. Just make sure they don't break it in orange or break it in red, whatever your anti-color is, for sure. And then Michael, what about you guys?
Yeah, I think one of the advantages we have of being a multi-brand franchisor is a shared resources platform of people. So we have 3 creative folks on our team that work across all of our brands. So we're able to create campaigns and content specifically for franchisees. And then, like others, we share that in FranConnect through our library system, where they can limit what can be modified. It might be the offer, the phone numbers, etc. So that you have this library of brand compliant content that others can use. But I think it's really about the relationship with our marketing team and the franchisees, so they feel like what we talk about is having an agency behind you, not just to come up with creative stuff, but to execute and then measure accordingly, so they feel like it's a true partnership. Most of our franchisees are not creative types that are going to try and go out and create things on their own. I would be willing to hazard a guess that none of them are Photoshop experts that are going to be able to go out and create stuff. But we just want to make sure that they feel like that's what we do for them. That's one of the value adds that we provide as a brand and as a franchise system.
And I think that's really great. And, I work for NetSertive, which we do, localized marketing. So the implementation side, a lot of the strategy side. And I just wanted to bring to light that, like, whether you're using a full agency, you're using a supportive agency, you're doing it in-house, with partners that you send them to, there's a billion different ways to do that. And if you have a weakness, in your brand or a place that you're wanting to expand, there are resources out there to help you. You're not alone. So, definitely connect with all of us. We're happy to share, what we've been through, from, as Michael is an umbrella brand, all the way down to I'm a franchisee. And, one size isn't going to fit all, and it's not going to fit you forever. So eventually you can outgrow agencies, maybe you bring them in-house. But planning for both the short term and the long term, I think is super important, which kind of leads us all back to the, the local marketing tactics. So I will leave you guys with that. Thank you guys so much for joining. It was really fun. I like to make webinars obviously pretty casual, because everyone's on a screen all day, and this was really great. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'm sure this recording will be shared out shortly.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely.